Discover the sinister secrets of the Cursed Old Seminary, a spine-chilling tale of haunted history. The houses in Cedar Grove were pristine, perfect boxes nestled together in eerie silence. Families seemed to have evaporated, leaving behind only whispers in the wind. Sarah, a curious 15-year-old with a knack for exploring, was thrilled the moment her family moved in. They'd traded the noise of the city for this suburban oasis, but her excitement quickly mixed with a bubbling dread. Every night, strange noises echoed through their modest home, shuffles that felt like lost souls tapping on the walls. Shadows flickered behind the cracked windows of the neighboring seminary, a looming edifice that breathed an unsettling history. The local kids said it was cursed, haunted by something dark and sinister. One evening, while her parents were busy with the daily grind, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching her. She peered out her window, the dim streetlights casting long, grasping shadows against her skin. The wind carried whispers, soft as cotton and yet jagged enough to send shivers down her spine. "It's nothing," she told herself, returning to her books, but the tales of the old seminary wrapped around her mind like a blanket of unease. When she slept, nightmares of dark figures clawed through her thoughts, teasing her awake with a racing heart. Days passed, each one draped in a tapestry of dread, until Mr. Jenkins, the town historian with a nostalgic passion for the macabre, pulled her aside during a neighborhood barbecue. "You've heard of the seminary, haven't you?" he asked, his voice low, nearly trembling. "The keeper used to guard the sanctity of the grounds. They say he once protected the town until the darkness turned him into something else. Something terrifying." Her heart raced. "Disappearances," he whispered urgently. "Do you know how many kids have just vanished? Your parents might treat it all as folklore, but the truth is in the shadows." His eyes locked onto hers, and a chill crawled down Sarah's spine. She could hear her own breath, each inhale was a gasp as she fought against the swirling panic that threatened to pull her under. That night, Sarah tossed and turned. The sounds, the scuttling and shuffling, grew louder, more desperate. Without thinking, she grabbed her flashlight and crept into the night. Each step felt like slipping into a bathed in darkness, a realm where fear transformed into something tangible. It wasn't long before she realized her friends had gathered too, drawn like moths to the flame of the seminary's enigma. They dared each other, laughter tumbling in the air as they approached the iron gate, rusted with age. "Let us just take a peek," someone said, and before she could hesitate, they were inside. The hush enveloped them, stifling their voices. But then laughter turned to panic when one friend darted away towards a shadow, chasing something they couldn't see. The others stood paralyzed, hearts pounding, breaths catching. "Ben?" Sarah called, her voice slicing through the oppressive silence. A strangled scream echoed from the depths of the seminary, freezing the blood in their veins. Then silence. Just like the neighborhood that had promised solace, the seminary felt like a predator lying in wait. Sarah's stomach knotted. She looked at her friends, fear reflecting in their eyes. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." They called for Ben again, voices shaky, but all they got back was the chilling echo of their own bravery. The shadows inched closer, and with every heartbeat, the hunting ground of the forbidden seminary seemed to tighten around them. As the darkness seeped into the cracks of their friendship, Sarah's curiosity became laced with terror. What had the seminary taken? What was the truth beneath its cursed facade? With everything on the line, Sarah knew she had to venture deeper into the mystery. Because if the seminary could silence a scream, what else could it take? As their world began to unravel around them, her heart pounded with a single ominous question: what would they face next in that suffocating darkness? The air in the seminary felt thick, like molasses, wrapping around Sarah and her friends as they hesitated near the entrance. Each breath echoed back to them, sound swallowed whole by the oppressive stillness. The sudden realization that Ben was gone sank into Sarah's chest like a stone. She glanced at Jake and Lily, their faces pale and eyes wide with panic. "Okay, we need to find Ben," Sarah announced, her voice ringing with a confidence she didn't feel. "Are you crazy?" Jake whispered, glancing around nervously. "What if whatever took him is still here? We can't just leave him. He could be hurt." Sarah snapped back, her heart racing. The shadows felt alive, pulsing like a heartbeat, and something cold slithered through the air, an unsettling awareness of eyes lurking just out of sight. "Let us go back," Lily pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper, quavering under the weight of their predicament. But with the threat of silence looming over them, an even more terrifying prospect than whatever was hiding in the dark, Sarah pressed on. "Stay close," she urged, gripping her flashlight tighter, the beam cutting through the darkness in frantic sweeps. They stepped further into the seminary, its aged wooden floors groaning beneath their weight. Shadows danced and twisted, seeping into the corners like smoke. The walls were lined with faded portraits of stone-faced figures whose eyes seemed to follow their every move. A chill ran down Sarah's spine as she wandered deeper, her heart thudding loudly in her ears. "Ben!" she called again, her voice trembling. The silence that answered felt almost mocking, an echo, twisted and distorted. Suddenly, a sound shattered the stillness. A soft rustling came from a door slightly ajar at the end of a corridor. The three exchanged glances, fear pooling in the pit of Sarah's stomach. "Do you hear that?" she whispered, and her friends nodded, eyes wide. "Maybe he is in there," Jake suggested, inching forward against the darkness that seemed to pull at him. "Or something bad is waiting for us," Lily countered, her voice shaking. "Look, we have to check," Sarah said, her own resolve trembling as she led the way toward the door. With a deep breath, she pushed it open, the hinges creaking in warning. The room inside was chillingly empty, save for a single candle flickering on a dusty altar, casting erratic shadows that danced along the walls. "Ben?" Sarah's voice cracked, and hope shriveled as the room remained silent and still. But just then, a scuffing noise came from behind an old wooden cabinet. Without thinking, Sarah took a step forward, the beam of her flashlight illuminating a dark figure crouched low. For a split second, hope surged in her chest. Was it Ben? But as the light landed, her heart dropped. It wasn't Ben. The figure was cloaked, its outline indistinct, but the eyes, those were not human. They glowed like embers in the darkness, piercing right through her. The air thickened with a sense of dread, a low growl vibrating from the creature that sent sharp spikes of terror through her veins. With a pounding heart, Sarah turned to run, but the shadows seemed to reach for her, pulling at her limbs as she yanked her friends back. "We need to get out. Now!" The sound of footsteps echoed around them, a sinister cacophony of approaching danger. A surge of pure terror drove them onward as they pushed back through the door they came from, adrenaline flooding their systems. Behind them, the creature roared, a guttural sound that shattered the air, a vow of pursuit. Sarah's breath came in frantic gasps as they sprinted down the darkened hallways, the flickering light of her flashlight barely keeping the encroaching shadows at bay. "What was that thing?" she shouted, but her words were swallowed by the echoes of their flight. Racing toward the exit, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the seminary was alive, a dark entity pulling them into its depths. "The Keeper." Mr. Jenkins' words echoed in her mind, something terrifying. What if the tales were true? As they burst through the iron gate, panting and gasping in the moonlight, Sarah felt it all wash over her: fear, confusion, and a haunting realization. They hadn't just come to find Ben, something had awoken in that cursed place, and they had stumbled right into its vicious grasp. But as Sarah looked back over her shoulder, the shadows began to twist again. The seminary seemed to pulse, as if anticipating their return. Is he still in there?" Jake stammered, dread pooling in his stomach. Sarah felt cold fingers of fear tracing her spine. "We have to go back," she whispered, the weight of the nightmare only just beginning to settle over them. What had they unleashed, and how far would it reach? Adrenaline coursed through Sarah's veins, a mix of fear and determination driving her forward. "We need to stick together," she urged, her voice firm yet trembling. As the trio made their way back to the iron gate, the oppressive atmosphere of the seminary loomed large, every shadow feeling like a living thing, curling and coiling in anticipation. "Go back in there? Are you out of your mind?" Jake sputtered as he glanced nervously down the dark corridor from which they had just fled. Ben could be in serious trouble, Sarah insisted, desperately searching their faces for solidarity. I can't do it, Lily stammered, shaking her head furiously, her breath coming in quick, panicked gasps. That thing was monstrous. We need a plan, Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. He seemed to be searching for courage but was clearly fighting against the rising tide of dread. We can't just go in blindly. What if it's waiting for us again? As they hovered at the gate, Sarah felt a familiar dread tighten around her throat. She turned her gaze back to the seminary, its windows now appearing like hollow eyes staring into the night. What if we split up? Sarah proposed, the idea igniting an uncomfortable spark of tension between them. No way. Jake shot back, but Lily nodded hesitantly. Maybe it would give us a better chance if we could cover more ground? She suggested, her voice cracking. Cover more ground or walk into a trap? Jake replied, grounding the conversation in realism with a heavy sigh. We don't know what we're dealing with here. But determination coursed through Sarah. Either we split up, or we wait here, and I 1T stand by. If we don't act now, whatever that thing is, we'll take Ben. I can't let that happen. With a heavy heart, Jake finally relented. Fine. We'll split up but we meet back here in 20 minutes. No matter what. Sarah and Lily exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. The gravity of the moment settled, each heartbeat resonating with the fear that engulfed them. Okay, Sarah breathed, I'll head upstairs. You two check the basement. Be careful, Jake warned, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of doubt. Just stay safe, Lily whispered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Without another word, they ascended the creaking staircase, its ancient wood echoing underfoot. Each step they took seemed to reverberate throughout the building, an ominous reminder of their mortal presence in this forgotten place. As Sarah reached the second floor, shadows seemed to stretch and claw at her from the corners. She felt the lingering chill of malevolence wrap around her. Instinctively, her fingers wrapped around the flashlight, illuminating the corridor ahead. The walls were lined with old, peeling wallpaper and menacing portraits. Their eyes seemed to hover, tracking her movements as she walked past. Whispers slid into her ear like smoke. Sarah, they were faint, like a breeze passing through closed doors. Help me, Ben? She blurted, hope flaring up like a candle flickering against the night. Is that you? The whispers intensified, a cacophony weaving in and out. Sarah, help, a voice cut through, a sound she recognized, Ben's voice. Desperate and thin. Ben! She shouted, her heart slamming against her ribs. She followed the sound, sprinting down the corridor, the shadows elongating in the corners of her vision. But the deeper she went, the darker it became. The candlelight from the first room disappeared behind her, swallowed by the anxiety closing in. This isn't a game, she whispered to herself, straining to catch other sounds amidst the throb of her heartbeat. Suddenly, a door loomed ahead, slightly ajar, the murmur of voices drifting through. Hesitation rattled her bones. She approached, light shaking in her grip as she peered inside. It was a small, neglected room, cluttered with rusting furniture and dust-covered books. No sign of Ben. But the whispers continued, growing louder, twisting into a frenzied chant. Panic surged. Was the seminary taunting her, leading her to the very heart of darkness? And then she saw a dark shape creeping close behind her, a chilling presence rising within the shadows. It lurked, undulating like smoke, eyes glowing. Turn around, the voice rasped, its tone a silken thread weaving through the air. Sarah felt the chill grip her lungs. A slow realization washed over her, she wasn't alone. Not anymore. As her heart raced, she turned, the flashlight flickering, and the shadows lunged forward. What awaited her was a nightmare drawn from the depths of her worst fears. The Keeper's curse was far from over. What would it claim next? Sarah's heart dropped into a void as she faced the encroaching darkness. The figure pressed closer, its shape a blurred outline of menacing intent. She could see the glint of its eyes, mirroring a predatory hunger, and the air thickened with an insatiable dread. "Who are you?" she croaked, her voice feeling lost among the whispers. There was no answer, just the soft rustle of fabric, or maybe skin, against the rotting wooden floorboards. A chill crept up her spine, and every instinct screamed at her to run, yet her feet felt trapped in place, bound by an unseen force. "Ben?" she shouted, trying to pierce the silence, hoping he would answer. The darkness only laughed back, a low rumble that vibrated through the air, sending waves of terror crashing over her. "Help me," the voice again, this time more desperate, closer. Was it Ben? Or was this a trap, another trick of the malevolent spirit that lurked within the seminary? The whispers crescendoed, a macabre symphony of longing and despair. "Sarah, come closer," they beckoned, sultry and insidious. With a surge of adrenaline, she spun around and bolted down the corridor. She couldn't stay here, not with that thing lurking behind her. Her breaths came in quick, sharp gasps as her flashlight flickered, illuminating the wallpaper that peeled back like skin from old wounds. Each step was a battle against panic, the whispers trailing her, coaxing her into the abyss. "Sarah!" The voice again, this time echoing, warping in the air like a haunted melody. Was it just her mind playing tricks, or was Ben really calling out to her? She clutched the flashlight tighter, the small beam dancing wildly as she stumbled down the hall, the shadows growing fangs, ready to devour her. She ripped her eyes away from the doorways that beckoned, focusing instead on the staircase that spiraled upward like the spine of a monstrous beast. If Ben was anywhere, it had to be up there. Mustering her resolve, she dashed toward the stairs. The energy around her surged, both electric and frigid. As she climbed, the shadows swirled like a tempest. With each step, a sense of wrongness enveloped her. The air thickened, making her feel as if she was wading through syrup. The very walls breathed, sighing with a sorrow that chilled her bones. Reaching the top, Sarah was met with an expanse of darkened hallways. She paused, her breath uneven, scanning for any sign of life. "Ben?" she called again, her voice shaking. Then, a thud echoed behind her, heavy and deliberate. Fear surged anew. She swung around, the flashlight beam slicing through the inky blackness. A figure stood at the end of the hall, cloaked, its features obscured in a veil of darkness. But she felt its gaze digging into her, heavy with intent. "Leave, this is not your place," the voice rumbled, deep and reverberating. A cold knot formed in her stomach. That voice. It was neither Ben nor the whispers, but a commanding presence that resonated with an ancient anger. "Where is Ben?" she demanded, her voice steadying despite her terror. The figure stepped forward, revealing sunken features and hollow cheeks. "The keeper. You seek him, but it is you who must decide if you are worthy." Before she could react, it raised a skeletal hand, and shadows coalesced around Sarah, tightening like a noose. Panic ignited within her. "Ben! I'll find him!" she screamed, fighting against the shadows constricting her. In that instant, her flashlight winked out, engulfing her in suffocating darkness. All she could hear were the whispers, louder now, swirling like a tempest. "Join us, Sarah," and then silence. Complete, shattering silence. What was waiting for her in the depths of the dark? Would she succumb, or would she fight against the fate that seemed to have already claimed so many? A weight pressed down on Sarah's chest, thick and suffocating. It was dark and oppressive blackness that wrapped around her like an unwelcome embrace. The whispers fell silent, replaced by a deep, echoing void that felt as alive as the shadows surrounding her. "Fight," an inner voice urged, though it was barely a whisper amidst the suffocating quiet. Just as her heartbeat began to calm, she felt something brush against her skin, cold and clammy. Sarah jolted, her instincts kicking into overdrive. She twisted, swiping at the darkness, but her hands met only empty air. The sensation vanished, leaving behind a phantom chill. "Ben!" she shouted again, desperate. Was he out there somewhere, lost like she was? Or had the keeper taken him, along with the others? A fragment of memory surfaced, something Ben had said about the keeper. "It feeds on fear, Sarah. You have to confront it." She had to confront it? Was that even possible in this eerie prison of darkness? Suddenly, the silence broke, a low groan reverberating through the air. It was close, so close it sent shivers through her body. she fought the panic rising within her. The Keeper had done this. Its magic didn't just shroud the seminary but twisted her thoughts into knots. A dim glow flickered in the void. It was faint, but it drew her in, a sliver of hope piercing the despair. With shaky breaths, she moved toward the light, her bare feet whispering against the cold floor. As she approached, she realized the glow emanated from an old, dusty chandelier hanging precariously above her. Its crystals were shattered, emitting a weak shimmer that barely pushed back the darkness. And then, out of the shadows behind it, a figure emerged, a girl, no older than 12, her eyes wide and frantic. "Help me!" she cried, clutching her arms around her knees as she sat on the floor, trapped in a web of spider-like shadows. "Who?" Sarah stepped closer, her hands instinctively reaching out. "Don't!" the girl screamed, her voice raw with terror. "It'll take you too." "What?" "It's okay." Sarah fought through the instincts to flee. "I can help you, just tell me your name." "Lila," she responded, pleading. "I'm trapped. It wants you too. You have to run." With those last words, shadows surged from the corners, creeping toward Sarah. She stumbled back, fire igniting through her veins as sheer terror surged. Everything Ben had warned her about snapped into focus. This Keeper had been feeding, trapping souls to keep the seminary alive. "Lila!" she yelled, trying to fight against the approaching darkness. "I'm not leaving you. We can break this." But the shadows pulled tighter around the girl, their whispers hissing, "You must choose." The fabric of the air shimmered ominously. Somewhere deep inside, Sarah felt a pull, a decision that weighed like stones on her chest. Was it worth the risk to save someone she barely knew? All around, the energy pulsed, electric and deadly. Would fighting for Lila mean forfeiting her own life? A quick glance back at the flickering light caught her attention again. The little girl as cries. The struggle between selfishness and bravery raged within her. Sarah bit her lip, heart racing as she contemplated the choice hanging in the balance. Could she really take on the Keeper? And just as the shadows lunged, something stirred. Anger ignited within her. This was her chance to stop the Keeper, to face her own fears. "Let her go!" she screamed, her voice steady as she squared her shoulders. For a moment, everything froze. The shadows paused, uncertain. But then, in a deafening roar, they charged. In the flurry of chaos, Sarah lunged toward Lila, determined to fight, to pull them both from the trap that had ensnared them. The darkness clashed against her skin like icy waves, but she pressed on, fueled by the wild twin forces of fear and hope. What grip would it have on her next? Would the shadows bind them both, or could they escape? The Keeper loomed close, its voice rumbling in the void. "You think you can save her? Let the darkness in, give yourself to it." But one truth echoed fiercely in Sarah's heart. She would not yield. She would fight. The confrontation had begun. What would the Keeper do next? The shadows surged forward, dark tendrils reaching for Sarah like twisted, grasping fingers. She felt their icy breath caress her skin, sending a jolt of primal fear skittering up her spine. But Lila's terrified gaze anchored her, a lifeline amid the chaos. "Hold on, Lila!" Sarah shouted, her voice ringing with defiance. With a fierce determination bubbling inside, she pushed against the shadows. She felt the pulsating, electric energy of the Keeper pressing against her mind, taunting her fears. "Your fear fuels me," the Keeper hissed, its voice a cacophony of whispers. The air shimmered as the darkness coiled tighter, a vice threatening to crush them both. Instinct took over. "I'm not afraid of you," Sarah cried out. She grabbed onto Lila's arm, a frail connection in the storm. "We have to stand together. We can't let it win." As if her voice had pierced the veil of the dark, the shadows hesitated, swirling around them. "Foolish girl," the Keeper ceded. "You think you can defy me?" In that instant, something flickered within Sarah, a memory, a sense of strength buried deep. "Ben," she murmured, recalling his unwavering spirit. The time he'd defended her from bullies, the way his laughter had illuminated her darkest days. With that thought, resolve surged through her, a fierce fire burning hot. "No!" Sarah shouted, channeling her power. "You don't control me!" The shadows writhed, shrinking back ever so slightly. Sarah felt Lila's small hand squeeze hers, a fragile yet electrifying bond of trust. The girl's eyes widened as light began to pulse from their connection, illuminating the darkness around them. "Keep fighting," Lila urged, her voice slicing through the encroaching gloom. "We have to break its grip." Together, they began to push back against the shadows, a blinding light radiating from their united hands. The cavern of darkness split like a storm cloud, revealing flashes of shimmering silver. The keeper's growl turned from anger to something that sounded almost desperate. "No!" it screamed. "You cannot escape me!" As they fought, whispers flooded Sarah's mind, halting, sinister truths and echoes of lost souls. "You should have run. You could have saved yourself." Taunted voices that once were bold, now mere remnants of despair. The heavy weight of the keeper was closing in again. Just as Sarah felt herself weakening, she pulled Lila closer, staring intently into the girl's eyes. "We can do this. Together. Remember who you are." Suddenly, Lila's face contorted into a look of fierce determination. "I won't let it take me. I won't let it take you." With a yanking motion, they intertwined their fingers, and together, they unleashed a blinding wave of light that surged outward. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in fragmented voices. "No, what have you done?" The atmosphere crackled as the shadows splintered and churned. Tendrils writhed and hissed, retreating in furious chaos. But then, in a heartbeat, the light flickered, dimming as their resolve wavered. "Don't give in!" Sarah yelled, but the shadows were regrouping, a sinister mass that fed off despair. Panic seized her as she felt the warmth of their connection slowly fading, the void creeping close again, and the keeper's chilling laughter echoed in the distance. "Your bond will break. You'll only find me again." The darkness howled. Sarah's heart raced, the fear of losing it all threatening to overwhelm her. But then she remembered the keeper had fed on their fear. Could they transform that into strength? "Lila!" she shouted, voice trembling with urgency. "What if we faced it together, not as victims but as fighters?" Lila nodded, swallowing hard. "I'm with you. We'll face it together. Right?" "Yes." A flicker of hope ignited within Sarah. "We will fight for each other. We choose to stand." With a defiant roar, they summoned the light again, merging their energies with hardened resolve. All around, shadows screeched, desperately clawing at the air as the light expanded, pushing back against the keeper's oppressive embrace. But just as their courage swelled, the keeper's voice slithered through, colder and sharper. "Let us see what you do when faced with the truth." Darkness swirled violently, revealing an obsidian door etched with twisted figures. An unseen force pulled at Sarah, igniting righteous anger. "What do you mean?" The keeper whispered, "You think you understand the darkness? Soon you will confront your own." Suddenly, the door cracked open, revealing a mist that beckoned them forward. What lay beyond? Would it be salvation or deeper torment? Their fate trembled in the balance as Sarah and Lila braced themselves. The keeper lurked behind, its hungry breath waiting for the moment they would falter. What revelation awaited them on the other side? What truths would they uncover, and at what cost? The door swung open with a low creak, releasing a fog that slithered like a living thing. Sarah instinctively tightened her grip on Lila's hand. They exchanged a glance, a wordless understanding that this might be their only chance. Together, Lila whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "We go together." They stepped through the threshold, the mist enveloping them in a suffocating embrace. The air turned dense, clinging to their skin like cold, clammy fingers. Each breath was a struggle, filled with a dampness that tasted of bitterness and fear. As the mist began to dissolve, they found themselves in a wide stone chamber, the walls towering above them. Faded murals lined the walls, depictions of twisted faces in agony, grasping at unseen chains. The room was lit by flickering torches that cast jagged shadows, remnants of the darkness they had fled. Where are we?" Sarah's voice trembled as it echoed off the stone. Lila's eyes swept over the room with wide horror. "This feels wrong, like we shouldn't be here." A throne-like structure loomed at the far end of the chamber, draped in tattered, decaying fabric. It beckoned to them, an ominous promise. The space felt alive, thrumming with a pulsating energy that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. The keeper's laughter, now amplified, reverberated against the stone. "Welcome to my sanctum, my lovely little girls," the keeper sneered, its voice a blend of venom and seduction. "You believe you've escaped? Oh, far from it. Here, you will confront your deepest fears, your darkest truths." The mist curled away, revealing distorted reflections of themselves in mirrors embedded within the walls. Sarah gasped. In the mirrors, her face was twisted, features drawn taut in terror, eyes wide with despair. Lila stood beside her but appeared lost, shadowed and hollow. "No!" Lila cried, stepping back. "This isn't real. We're not like that." "Yes!" Sarah shouted, forcing strength into her voice. "It's just a trap. We are not defeated." The reflections laughed, a cacophony of taunting voices echoing their doubts. "You think you can alter fate? You exist only to be consumed." They pressed forward, refusing to surrender. But as they approached the throne, a heavy pressure bore down on their chests, making it harder to breathe. The keeper manifested before them, a grotesque silhouette woven from shadows and reflection, an amalgamation of every fear they had ever known. "Time to face the consequences of your defiance," it hissed, curling around them like smoke. "What will you sacrifice to survive?" "Nothing," Sarah replied, chest heaving. "We fight. We break you." As if sensing their resolve, the keeper shrieked, flooding the chamber with darkness that wrapped around their bodies, squeezing, pinching their skin like barbed wire. "Think of what you fear most. Your loved ones, your greatest failures." It shrieked, each word crackling with the promise of despair. Images bombarded Sarah's mind, her mother's worried face, Ben's laughter fading into echoes of silence, Lila falling into a void, lost forever. Panic surged, hot and suffocating. "No! They won't be lost. Not while I'm here. Face it," the keeper demanded, weaving light and shadow around them. "Accept what you are and what you fear." "Never!" Lila cried, clenching her fists. "You won't take us." With that declaration, the girls drew on the light within them, igniting a determined blaze from the depth of their core. But the pressure intensified. Shadows wrapped tighter, and the air crackled around them, threatening to extinguish their flickering hope. Just as despair teetered on the edge, they locked eyes, recognizing a shared truth: hope was their greatest weapon, even against the suffocating grip of the keeper. But then, from behind the throne, a glint caught Sarah's eye, a dagger encrusted with dark gemstones. "What is that?" she wondered, fear and curiosity twined together. "Will you take it?" the keeper taunted, its breath hot on their necks. "Will you dare?" The challenge hung in the air like a thunderclap, leaving both girls breathless with uncertainty. What would they uncover? If they chose to take that plunge? Would it unleash more darkness, or could it be the key to severing the keeper's hold? With every heartbeat, the tension built like a storm ready to erupt. Would they grasp that dagger and face the culmination of their fears? The air thickened, wrapping the girls in an oppressive shroud as they weighed the keeper's insidious challenge. Sarah's heart raced, hammering against her ribs. "We can't be afraid," she breathed. But the darkness pulsed around them, whispering doubts that clawed at her mind. "What if it's a trap?" Lila's voice quavered, recounting the terrifying realities that had already transpired. Every shadow seemed to stretch toward them, as if urging them to back away from the impending choice. The dagger shimmered menacingly, pulling their gaze with a magnetism that felt sinister. It was beautiful and horrifying, an artifact of both power and destruction. "What happens if we take it?" Lila mused aloud, wrestling visibly between hope and dread. The keeper chuckled, a sound that made the hair on Sarah's neck stand on end. "Such brave little girls, or perhaps, such naive little fools." Sacrifice can deliver power, or doom, choose wisely. Shut up! Sarah screamed, a burst of desperation spilling out. She stepped forward, driven by an instinct she couldn't explain. I'll take it. No! Lila shouted, pulling at Sarah's arm as if to keep her rooted in reality. Wait! We don't know, but Sarah wrenched her arm free. I need to. We need to fight back. With a swift motion, she reached for the dagger. The moment her fingers brushed the cold hilt, a jolt surged through her. A piercing scream erupted from the walls, echoing the torment of countless souls trapped in the Keeper's grip. Shadows spiraled, hovering like a storm cloud ready to pour out its darkness. Do you accept what you fear? The Keeper's voice twisted, vibrating through the chamber like an earthquake. Do you want the truth? This place thrives on sacrifice. But at what cost? 1,000 voices surged within Sarah's mind. Instant flashes, lost friendships, heartbreak, the pain of betrayal. Images flickered like a broken film reel, the faces of those she'd let down, the sins she desperately wished she could forget. No! She cried, fighting against the flood of anguish. I acknowledge my fears, but I won't let them win. At that moment, Lila joined her, grasping the dagger's hilt. You're not alone, Sarah. Together. In a surge of combined strength, they yanked the dagger free, and the shadows recoiled as if scalded. The dagger glowed brighter, illuminating the chamber with a fierce light that drove back the suffocating darkness. No! The Keeper's howl pierced through the air, discordant and furious. You are not supposed to wield that. You do not understand the power you've unleashed. Sarah and Lila stood firm, the power coursing through them, invigorating and intoxicating. Let us show you what we understand. Sarah shouted, her voice rising above the chaos as energy crackled in the air. But then, the shadows lifted, revealing a corridor behind the throne. It was a passage cloaked in mist, one that seemed to promise escape yet radiated a malevolent pull. Could it lead to freedom or farther into the abyss? Do you dare go further? The Keeper crooned, eerily calm now. Or will you turn sway from the darkness to face truths even more sinister? Both girls exchanged urgent glances, their breath quickening as reality blurred between hope and horror. Should we take that path? Lila questioned, uncertainty lacing her tone. Together, Sarah repeated, her grip on the dagger tightening. But the frantic beat of her heart drowned out any clarity. With shaking hands, they moved toward the dark corridor, the Keeper's laughter following them like a dark shadow. Each step felt heavy with consequence. Would they behold the truth they yearned for, or awaken something far more terrifying than the Keeper itself? Ahead, visible through the creeping mist, a fleeting figure darted, its face obscured. A chilling realization settled within Sarah: this would not end until every secret was laid bare. What awaited them in that haunting corridor? Would they find salvation or fall deeper into the Keeper's wicked grip? The mist curled around them like a living thing, coiling and unfurling in waves that whispered secrets. Sarah gripped the dagger tightly, its hilt feeling both comforting and alien. Stay close, she urged, her voice barely above a whisper. Lila nodded, her eyes darting around, analyzing every shifting shadow as if it might lunge at them. The corridor stretched before them, narrow and dimly lit. Flashes of grotesque images flickered against the damp stone walls, faces twisted in agony, eyes hollow and pleading. They trembled at the sight, but the adrenaline surged through them, pushing back fear with haunted determination. Do you think it leads to the Keeper? Lila asked, fear creeping back into her voice. I don't know, but it has to lead somewhere, Sarah replied. Farther in, she spotted something odd, faint, ghostly glimmers floating in the air. Shapes danced just beyond her reach, taunting her with their proximity. A sudden chill swept through the corridor, wrapping around them with fingers of ice. Breathless, Sarah pressed forward, the energy from the dagger vibrant in her grip. Whatever is here, we'll face it together, she promised, though her bravery wavered under the sheer weight of uncertainty. As they ventured deeper, the corridor widened into a cavernous room, the ceiling lost in shadowy heights. Ethereal chains hung like vines from the rafters, arrows of light bouncing off the dagger to pierce the dark. The air vibrated, alive with whispers that seemed to know their names. "Welcome," a voice hissed, dripping with malice. The keeper materialized before them, a ghastly visage of shadow and light, a reflection of them both intertwined. "You've come for truth, but you will find something far more sinister. You're not ready for what lies ahead." "We are ready," Sarah challenged, her grip on the dagger steady. Lila rallied behind her with a nod, but doubt lingered in her eyes. They had come too far to turn back now. The keeperess' laughter echoed, chilling and mocking. "Ah, but you've only scratched the surface. Each truth you uncover comes with a price. A sacrifice must be made." The space around them shimmered, revealing nightmarish visions, friends in jeopardy, shadows of their darkest fears rising to confront them. Lila gulped, stepping back. We can't make those choices." Shadows writhed at her feet, desperate to ensnare her. "Yes, you can," Sarah insisted fiercely, taking a step forward. "We won't let fear stop us. Not now." "Very well," the keeper sneered, his eyes narrowing. "Choose a truth, then you hold the dagger, but I control the path. Like moths to flame, you'll learn the cost of your ignorance." A pull seized Sarah Escott, dragging her toward the shadows that twisted and swelled like a storm. Visions shattered sent shivers of horror, her mother's grief, her friend's haunted eyes after betrayal, all clawing for her attention. "Sarah!" Lila cried, breaking through the oppressive atmosphere. "We can't fall for this. It's not real." Her shaking voice anchored Sarah just enough to pull her back. But the keeper's cackle cut through the congealed air. "Reality is simply perception, and yours is about to fracture." With a swift motion, he gestured, and the floor beneath them trembled ominously. Each tile split apart as the ground yawned open, a chasm forming. Shadows writhed below, eager to swallow them whole. "Don't look down!" Sarah shouted, panic rising. The cavernous roar grew louder, drowning out their thoughts. "We must move." But Lila froze, her gaze fixed on a flicker of light from the abyss. "What is that?" she asked, fear intertwined with curiosity. "It's a trap. Don't fall for it," Sarah shouted, tugging Lila's arm. But the gleam pulled at Lila's consciousness, whispering promises of forgotten memories and long-lost comfort. I want to know, Lila, no," Sarah shouted, pitching forward as the floor collapsed. Together, they stumbled forward, crashing onto solid ground just as the void threatened to swallow them. Breathless and shaking, they regained their stance, heartbeats echoing like thunder in their ears. The keeper loomed close, a smile composed of shadows. "You've just begun to play my game. The truths you seek may cost more than you know. What would they risk to uncover the truth?" As the shadows closed in again, wrapping them in a dance of despair and dread, the question loomed. Would they escape the keeper's grip, or would they be consumed by the very darkness they sought to illuminate? A tremor of resolve coursed through Sarah as she and Lila steadied themselves, their breaths mingling with the thickening darkness. The keeper loomed close, shadows writhing around him like serpents, each whispering taunts of doubt and despair. The chamber pulsed with malevolence, but beneath the suffocating weight of fear, a flicker of defiance sparked in Sarah's heart. "Remember your strength," she murmured, trying to reach Lila through the haze of terror. "We've come this far. We can confront whatever truth it throws at us." With those words, Sarah straightened, gripping the dagger with white-knuckled determination. "Let us expose this dark facade for what it is." "All right," Lila replied, swallowing back the tremor in her voice. "Together." The keeper's laughter reverberated through the chamber. "Childish bravery, but you will soon learn. Each truth comes with a cost." As it spoke, shadows surged forward, filling the room with darkness. They slithered at Sarah and Lila's feet, curling up their legs, seeking any opening to drag them down. Sarah steadied her grip. "Not this time," she shouted. With a wild scream, she thrust the dagger forward. A blinding light erupted, cascading through the chamber, cutting through the dark like a knife. The shadows recoiled, hissing in fury, and the keeper's expression faltered for just a moment. "You think you can escape," it screamed, and the room trembled. "Your fears will consume you." A spurt of energy coursed through Sarah as she felt the dagger resonate with her bravery, as if finding strength hidden deep within. "No," she shouted, finding newfound determination. "You don't own us. We choose to face our fears." Lila echoed her sentiments, raising her hands high, channeling everything she had learned. "Let us face whatever is down there. We aren't afraid anymore." The air shimmered, and with a combined force, a beam of light shot from the dagger, bright and true. It sliced through the darkness, dispelling shadowy figures that twisted against it. The whispers surged in a cacophony of anguish and anger, but Sarah and Lila pressed forward, hand in hand, pushing beyond the terror. Their light expanded, unfurling like wings in the grip of a storm, revealing a vision cleaved from the darkness. Sarah gasped as images unfolded around them, scenes of Ben, laughing alongside them in brighter days, together with friends and family memories rich in warmth and laughter. "The truth can't trap us," Sarah realized, her heart swelling in defiance against the swirling shadows. "It's only what we make of it." But then the shadows retaliated, curling into grotesque forms that echoed insecurities hers and Lila's, twisting into horrors they dared not look at. Sarah's breath quickened as she saw shapes for every moment of doubt, every flawed decision they had ever faced. "Those fears, they are not us," Lila cried, shaking her head vigorously as if trying to dispel the very darkness that sought to engulf them. "We are stronger than this." The shadows encroached, choking her words, and for a moment, despair clawed at Sarah's mind. Would they crack under the pressure? Would they allow the darkness to swallow their friendship? "No!" she shouted, summoning every ounce of courage. "We won't let you take any more." They spun the dagger's light toward the grotesque figures, reflecting their own resolve back at them. "You can't have us!" They roared in unison, voices united, carrying the weight of their shared courage. The brilliant beam of light thrust forth, illuminating the shadows, a relentless promise of hope. The shadows shrieked, ripping apart as the keeper morphed into a swirling mass, gaining moments of clarity with each declaration of defiance. "No! Fight against your truths!" it wailed, impotent rage twisting in its voice. But it was too late. The light engulfed them, resonating with the truth of what they stood for: friendship, bravery, love. The beam expanded, stretching into the depths of shadow and light, tearing the keeper's grip apart, revelation after revelation illuminating everything it had hidden. In an almost cataclysmic explosion, the chamber shattered, the shadows dissipating into nothingness as the darkness collapsed around them. The once ominous chamber melted away, revealing the once lost souls, including Ben, standing in the brilliant glow. Their expressions were of disbelief but soon shifted into radiant joy. Sarah felt the weight lift off her heart, laughter bubbling forth as her friends stepped into the light, reconnecting all the fears dispersed like dust in the wind. "You did it! You faced the darkness!" Ben shouted, rushing to embrace her. Lila's eyes shone with pride. "We fought together. The keeper is no more." With a final rush of radiant energy, they blinked back into the quiet suburban night of Cedar Grove, feeling the warmth of freedom cradle them. The seminary faded behind them, a ghost of what once threatened to consume them. They stood together, hands still clasped, breathing in the cool night air. No more shadows haunted their hearts, only echoes of laughter, shimmering with hope. "We freed them," Sarah whispered, tears glistening in her eyes, "and ourselves. We did it together," Lila smiled, squeezing her hand. And in that moment, they realized, they possessed a light no darkness could ever extinguish. Friends forged through shadows would always shine brighter in the face of fear. As their laughter mingled with the night, a promise formed in their hearts, unbreakable and strong. Before the world faded around them, Sarah remembered this was just the beginning. The shadows may subside, but understanding their strength would guide them wherever they went. And now, they revisited their lives, carrying both light and strength forged from darkness, ready to embrace every truth that came next. If you loved this thrilling conclusion, you need to subscribe immediately to make sure you never miss an exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm so these tales can reach even more people. Flood the comments section with your reactions and your theories about what comes next, because I want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this all wraps up. Your support makes all the difference, and only true fans know how crucial it is to keep this community strong.